I'm going to call the Springfield City Council work session to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon,
Here.
Councilor Weber. Here. Councilor Moe.
Here.
Councilor Rodley. Here. Councilor Blackwell. Here. Councilor Doyle. Here. And Councilor Fissionary.
All right, we're expecting Councilor Fissionary anytime. We have two items this evening in the work session, Springfield Public Library Advisory Board interviews. David.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here, Emily David, Library and Museum Director, and also liaison to the Library Advisory Board. We do have 5 open positions, 4 due to terms ending, and 1 a resignation. 2 of the positions were applications and they were directly appointed, so we just have 3 positions to fill. A couple changes to the AIS. We did have one of the applicants pull out. She couldn't make it this evening, so Janice Rout will not be here this evening. I just heard Janice Rout.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the 3rd one there. And then I had one mistake on the AIS and I apologize. There's 2 full-term positions and the resignation leaves a partial 1-year term left. So you'll need to do appointments for 2 full terms of 4 years and then 1 just a single year term. So do you have any questions for me?
Janice Rout, is she still interested?
She just said she couldn't make it tonight and so she wouldn't be able to apply at this time, was the email that I got from her. Okay, should I call the first applicant?
Bring the first person in.
Okay, so it'll be Roy Burling. You're gonna take a seat right over next to Neil there on the other side.
Okay, you do that.
Yeah.
Hi, Roy.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. We're gonna go around and do a quick round of introductions, and then I'll ask you the couple of questions we have. We're gonna start way down there with Victoria.
Hi, I'm Victoria Doyle. I am the city councilor for Ward 5, which is just past, kind of almost in between Thurston and middle of Springfield.
Hi, Michelle Weber, counselor for Ward 1, which is Gateway and North Springfield.
Steve Bolt, Ward 2, 10th Street to I-5.
Hi, Beth Blackwell, Ward 4, which is Olympic to Jasper, 42nd to about 21st.
I'm Corey Rodley, she, her pronouns, and I'm the Ward 3 counselor.
Sean Van Gordon, Mayor. Introduce yourself, Joe.
I can't hear a thing.
Oh, well, that's Councilor Fissionary from Thurston. He's still working on, he's also doubling as the counselor from LeGrand this evening.
Okay,
All right, I've got a couple of questions, and then they're gonna take some notes. Are you ready for your first question?
absolutely.
What strengths or skills would you like to bring to the library board?
It's a good question. I think probably one of service a little bit in terms of who I am. I've got the old adage is if you best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. And so kind of my volunteer efforts started about 24 or 5 years ago with Rough Park out in Thurston. And so planted a number of trees out there. I'm retired now, and so I was looking for an opportunity like the library board because I've become very fond of the library. I think it's a great place. And I thought that I could contribute in terms of being an advocate for it and just joining with similar people with similar money.
Great, thank you. How do you think the work of the library board improves our community?
So for what I've seen, and what I read about today, at least a little reviewed again today, is it seems like the library board is they're kind of outgoing in terms of trying to figure out where the library service fits best. And so they've had a number of small initiatives that way that have contributed to the community, we'll say. Seems like it was a much longer list than I had expected in terms of a library advisory board. I kind of figured they'd be pretty quiet, but it seems like they actually try to figure out how to do outreach. One of the things they were talking about is getting books to people and facilities, elderly facilities, those kinds of things. But you can just tell that in terms of the one meeting that I attended, there was a great enthusiasm for the services that they provide to the community, and that's really kind of what I would like to engage in.
Okay. And if you could make one positive change in the city of Springfield, what would it be?
I'd kind of create a bigger library because it just seems to me, so, yeah, I mean, it just seems like people like coming to the library and I see kids there with smiles and their parents and those kinds of things. As I was thinking about that today, and it's a far better place to come and be, and say the Justice Center, if you had to deal with that or, kind of thing. So I just think it's a great service. And so, just continuing with the collection, continuing with the building, make it a bigger, more inclusive place.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Are we able to ask clarifying questions?
Yeah, if it's a clarifying question, go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned something about the Justice Center versus the library. Can you clarify what you were saying there?
Well, I just, kind of, my guess is if I was in jail or thrown in jail, it would not be a pleasant place to be, or, even go and find somebody that had been thrown in jail. That's kind of my point there, is that kind of dealing with issues there as opposed to being at the library where people are coming for entirely different reasons.
Okay, so you're not talking about funding, you're just.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Thank you.
my experience in public funding would tell me that funds are pretty tight for the city of Springfield, and I really don't see many more resources being available for the library, given all the competing needs. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you so much. Those were all the questions we
Sure,
had.
great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I'm here
Yeah.
and I can hear you.
Oh, excellent.
I apologize. It's dark where I'm at, but I can see you guys just fine.
And this is Violet Olsen.
Hello, Violet. If
Hello.
you want to just take a seat right up there. Thank you for coming in. We're gonna go around and do a quick round of introductions, and then I've got 3 questions to ask you, and then we'll be over before you know it.
Okay.
We'll start with Victoria down there.
Hi, I'm Victoria Doyle. I am the city councilor for Ward 5, which is in Thurston, 42nd Main Street to about Bobstrop.
Okay. Michelle Weber, counselor for Ward 1.
Steve Moe, Councilor for Ward 2, which is 10th Street to I-5.
Hi, Beth Blackwell, counselor for Ward 4, which is Olympic to Jasper, 42nd to 21st.
And I'm Corey Rodley, she, her pronouns, and I am Ward 3 City Councilor.
Sean Van Gordon, Mayor. Go ahead, Joe, introduce yourself.
Joe Pishneri, Ward 6, pretty much everything east of 58th Street.
All right. So what strengths or skills would you bring to the library board?
Well, I would bring confidence, as well as an ability to negotiate and think through problems. I ask a lot of questions too, so I'm very curious, and all those things would make me good for the library board, because I would be challenging as well as able to compromise.
And how do you think the work of the library board improves the community?
The library is one of the most important services that the city provides. It's a great place for learning for all ages. There's I know there's like writing services, and pretty sure there's foreign language services too for adults, like the mango thing, whatever that was a few years ago. I don't know if the library still does it, but so my family has also participated in a lot of the events that the library puts on, so it's a great way for the community to get together as well. So having a strong board that, helps hold the library account, make sure the library is doing all that it needs and has all the resources it needs is important for the unity of the community as well as the education of the community.
If you could make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
Probably the one positive change, which is making sure that everybody trusts each other. This Springfield is a really great community. So it would be great to make sure that everybody trusts each other and just, build more bridges among the residents, and hopefully we can be a stronger community for that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We are going to keep interviewing, and then at a point, the staff will let you know who was selected.
All right, thank you
I
very much.
appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
You're gonna take a seat right over there next to Mona on the other side. And this is Curtis Wygan.
Hello, Curtis. Thanks for coming in. We're going to do a quick round of introductions, and then I've got a couple of questions for you. And then we will wrap the whole thing up.
Sounds good.
Victoria.
Hi, Victoria Doyle. I'm with Ward 5, representing for Ward 5. So 42nd to Bob Straub and like Main Street to Jasper.
Hi, Michelle Weber, Council for Ward 1, which is Gateway and North Springfield area.
Steve Mo for Ward 2.
Hi, Beth Blackwell, Ward 4, which is Olympic to Jasper, 42nd to 21st.
And I'm Corey Rodley, she, her pronouns, and I am Ward 3.
Sean Van Gordon, Mayor. Joe.
Joe Pishner at Ward 6, pretty much everything east of 58th Street.
Okay. What strengths or skills do you bring to the library? Would you bring to the library board?
I actually have I don't currently work in a library, but I have my master's in library science, and have worked in public libraries for around 10 years or so before my current job, which is with Homes for Good. I'm IT director at Homes for Good. So similar communities are being served by the library and Homes for Good, which is the housing authority for Lake County. So I've got some connections there. I've got professional experience from my public library specific work. Lived in Springfield for about 7 years, a homeowner in Springfield as well. So I guess just that experience with and kind of a passion for public libraries and what they stand for and what they do and the role they serve in the community. I'm just like super supportive and just want to try to learn more and help out with the skills that I have.
And how do you think the work of the library board improves the community?
I would say I'm not super familiar with exactly. I'm familiar with the way that the library board interacts with the library, but say just advocating for services and funding, pursuing additional funding for the library, and like expansion of services and that sort of thing, and like advising on policy and that sort of thing. But obviously, like I plead a little bit of ignorance and would be, definitely be looking to learn more.
If you can make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
Man, that's a good question. I really like living in Springfield, honestly. I would say for the library specifically, having worked at multiple public libraries of like varying size, I'm not sure if there's anything specifically that is missing from like the library services, but I would just be interested in. I mean, I currently work as IT director, so I've kind of got a, technology lens on some stuff. So I'm also like, in my 30s and don't have any kids, so I'm not a super frequent user of the library necessarily. So I guess if anything, I'd be looking to explore like some additional services that would outreach to people like me that maybe are not the primary audience of the library. What those are exactly, I think might vary, but there's definitely some opportunities there, I think. So.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. We're gonna keep interviewing and then we will have somebody let you know what we decided. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Okay, could you remind us how many applicants, how many 4 years? And give us that answer again.
Yes, so 3 applicants, 3 positions, 2 full-year terms that end in December 2027, 1 partial term that ends December 2024, so 1 year. And that's what wasn't right on the AIS.
All right. Who wants to talk?
How does reappointing two people to second full terms fit in with this?
So we had 5 positions that were open. So they took the 2 and then there's 3 left, yeah.
So the question too.
Sure.
So if they're appointed, do they get the option then to have the longer term or the shorter term, or is that something
We decide.
we decide?
Yep. And sometimes we just ask the staff to randomly assign people, like there's, may not be any benefit and just to draw somebody out of the hat. That is an acceptable answer too. Okay. How are people feeling about the 3 folks? Yes, good? Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel more comfortable with Roy and Curtis, particularly for those longer terms.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I have to say, right at the very end, when Curtis said that he's not the library's primary audience and that he'd like to see other stuff, that's a really good point, because I don't think I've been in the library 4 times, and it's because I don't have kids, I don't think about it, and so that was kind of an interesting take on that, which kind of impressed me. So yeah, I would have to agree that Roy and Curtis would probably be my 2 for the full term.
Okay, so we are good on all 3. Roy and Curtis are the 2 full-term folks. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Joe. And then Violet is the 1-year person. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, next item is Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee applicant interviews. Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Drew Larson, City of Springfield Transportation Planner and liaison to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The committee currently has 5 vacancies. 2 have been a year-long plus vacancies. We had a failed recruitment back last spring. And then 3 other term members are terming out. 2 due to health reasons. They have decided not to reapply, and the other was time constraints. She's just a little too busy at this point. So we did our recruitment, and luckily we did receive 5 applications for 5 vacant positions. The terms are 3-year term limits, so they would be ending December 31st, 2026, if appointed.
All right, any questions for Drew? Then you can bring us the first person. Thank you.
I had the same thought, but I didn't make the un-PC joke.
Right over there.
You need to grow as an
I
individual.
know, I know. It's a brand new me.
So this is Douglas Bovee. our first applicant.
Hello, Douglas.
Hi, we met before on one of the walks. Walked together down the street.
We're gonna
We
go,
had pardon?
we're gonna go, we'll get comfortable and then we'll go around and do a quick round of introductions.
Good, good.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I am representing for Ward 5, which is 42nd to Bob Straub, Main Street to Jasper.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hi, Michelle Weber, Counselor for Ward 1, which is Gateway North Springfield.
Steve Moore, Counselor for Ward 2.
Beth Blackwell, Counselor for Ward 4.
And I'm Corey Rodley, she, her pronouns, and I am in Ward 3.
John Van Gordon, Mayor.
Joe Pishneri, Ward 6, everything east of 58th Street.
All right, so what strengths or skills would you bring to the BPAC committee?
I am avid bicyclist and I like walking and I regularly ride my bicycle along the pathway to my job in Eugene. And I am on a number of boards. I served on Bring board and I'm now on the sponsors board and a couple other boards in between there. So lots of experience with that kinds of activities. It seems like there was one other thing here. Oh, just knowledgeable. I formerly lived in Eugene, so very knowledgeable about bicycle lanes and the value of bicycle lanes.
How do you think the work of BPAC improves our community?
So bicycling and walking are both very important for good health. And ideally, they help people get out of their cars. And there's lots of values to that, reduction in carbon emissions and reduction in pollution and those kinds of things. But especially connections with people. Walking generates that possibility and bicycling helps people get to and from locations easily and freely and without polluting and exercising our bodies, which is extremely useful. So I know about those things and I want to encourage those activities.
If you could make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
Well, I'm gonna give two answers because I can't do one. One is just a pharmacy in downtown Springfield would be awesome. And in terms of bicycling, I would love to see a bridge over the river between Doris Ranch and Mount Pisgah Beaver Park. I think a bridge there would be fabulous.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming in.
Okay.
We're going to continue to interview and then we'll have staff get back with you about.
Okay.
So
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Steve.
Get your jacket.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
We did the walkabout a few weeks ago. He was part of it. A lot of good ideas.
Just on that side of the table, next to it.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Elena Coleman.
Hello,
That's
Elena.
me. Hi.
Hello. Thanks for coming
Nice to
in.
meet y'all.
We are going to do a quick round of introductions and then we'll ask a couple of questions. So Victoria?
Yeah, Victoria Doyle, I'm the representative for Ward 5.
Hi, Michelle Weber, Counselor for Ward 1.
Steve Moore, Counselor for Ward 2.
Beth Blackwell, Counselor for Ward 4.
Corey Rodley, she, her pronouns, and I'm Ward 3.
Sean Van Gordon, Mayor?
Joe Pishneri, Ward 6, Thurston Gray. Sorry to scare you. I'm out here in the dark.
So what strengths or skills would you bring to the BPAC?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm a relatively new resident of Springfield. I moved here in June. But I've been in the Eugene Springfield area for about 2 years. And one of the things I love about Springfield is that I can bike everywhere. So I bike commute every day and I absolutely love it. It is like a whole new excitement for me. I'm also a graduate student at University of Oregon And I'm studying community and regional planning. So I'm thinking a lot about housing and transportation and community development. And so for me, I just see the importance of having these connected transportation networks because they really facilitate access and community building. And I do really love this area and I intend to stay here for many years. So I really see this as a great way to be able to be involved in the community and draw on that experience from planning and my love of biking and just being outside. So I'm really excited to be more involved in the Springfield community. My background is in the domestic and sexual violence field. I worked in social services for many, many years, specifically developing housing programs for survivors of domestic violence. So I'm very much a systems thinker, problem solver, but I also really love interacting with people and just being present with people. And so I've had a lot of experiences working on different collaborative teams. I've been on numerous committees. I lived in New Hampshire for 7 years and I was on many housing related focus committees in New Hampshire. And so I recognize the collaborative team process can be challenging, but I try to approach these sort of experiences with a focus on finding shared values and goals, approaching things with cultural humility and just curiosity to understand people's views. So those are some things I bring to potentially being on BPAC.
How do you think the work of BPAC improves our community?
Yeah, so I think I spoke to it a little bit before, but I think diverse transportation networks create so much more access for people with differing abilities from different ages, for people who just have different needs for getting around. It allows people more access to different places. And it also allows us to create more of a sense of place. I think like walking and biking allows us to slow down and be present with the people we're seeing and the places we're seeing. And it makes us feel like we're part of the place. And it also just creates so much more connectedness between different communities within the community. And I just think it allows us to get to know each other better and create a stronger sense of place within the city. I also think that there are definitely safety challenges with biking and walking. And so to me, it's really important that biking and walking be a safe thing that people can do and access regularly. And I also think that'll make people want to be doing it more. And so I think for all of those reasons, I just think improving our bike and pedestrian infrastructure is just really important to our community and to just creating more connectedness within Springfield.
And if you could make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
It would be to develop mixed-use multifamily housing with access to transportation networks, public transit and active transportation. Do I sound like a planner? But yeah, that would be my answer. I feel like that's really important.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. We still have quite a few interviews, so we're gonna get through them and then we'll talk about it and then the staff will get back to you.
Great. All right. Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here. Take care. Oh, thanks.
Undergraduate degree in math and Portuguese.
It's awesome.
Why not?
Just on the other side next to Neil.
Oh, I know Neil. I Neil.
Rachel, forgive me if I butcher this, but this is Rachel Glazer.
Glazer, you're right. That was perfect.
Hello.
Hi there.
Thanks for coming in. We'll do a quick round of introductions and then we'll get through just a couple of questions we have for you and then we'll let you go. Go ahead, Victoria.
Hi, Victoria Dorio, Ward 5 representative.
Hi, Michelle Weber, Ward 1.
Steve, Ward 2.
Beth Blackwell, Ward 4.
Corey Radley, she, her pronouns, and I'm in Ward 3.
Sean Van Gordon, Mayor.
Joe Pishneri, Ward 6. Hi. Everything east of everything east of 58th Street.
All the way to LeGrand this evening.
There you go. Central Eastern Oregon.
What strengths or skills would you bring to the BPAC?
So I generally think I'd be like wheels on the ground or boots on the ground, because I do a lot of cycling and walking around Springfield. I live out on 22nd Street, so 2 miles from here. And in the evenings in the summer, especially, my husband and I walk downtown like a couple nights a week, and we like to take different routes to get there. We like to hang out downtown and then just walk home with all the daylight. So we're walking a lot. I work downtown in Springfield, so I bike downtown, hang out at my office, and yeah, I'm just like walking around downtown every day of the week. And I feel like I see a lot of things that I, would like to see improved in terms of bicycle or walking infrastructure. And then I talk to people who have, just certain questions or concerns as well, since we're all downtown together. And I bike not just to downtown Springfield, but over into Eugene. So I do like the West D connector a lot, twice a week at least. And yeah, I've been out to the Virginia Daisy bikeway that's been improved recently. That area that it was a path, but it's been paved. And I think the BPAC was involved in making that improvement a couple of years ago. So yeah, I've been enjoying that. And I just love exploring Springfield. So I feel like I would just be out seeing the stuff.
How do you think the work of BPAC improves our community?
So I feel like I see it, it's tangible. I see, when there's a crosswalk put in place on 21st Street, 1 street over from me, right across from the elementary school, I'm like, oh, somebody had to make that happen. And now the kids are using it. So I feel like that was probably BPAC. Another pedestrian crossing across from my office along South A Street, there was like improvements made there. And that's really helpful because that's for me and my neighbors, and we get to use that. I've seen more education and outreach regarding responsible transit on the bike path. There were at least some temporary signs put up about, what's a safe speed to travel? What's the etiquette for operating on this multi-use path? And so I like that. And I feel like BPAC is interested in doing some of those really good outreach and infrastructure types of things.
If you can make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
That's a really big question. I guess in terms of bicycle and pedestrian, the BPAC related stuff, I would just like more people to have the option to use active transport. So more people could walk or ride their bike or roll whatever way they like to. They wouldn't have to use a car if they didn't want to.
Well, perfect.
A question?
Sure.
I saw a reaction when you mentioned the West East Street connection.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me.
Oh, the D Street connection. It's just kind of awkward. And I know that I did look at the website, and I think that BPAC has looked at that connector in the past, and I don't know all the details of that. I'm sure it's a challenging
It's
project.
interesting when people talk about it, how you react. I saw that.
Yeah, it could be nicer for sure. Could be just a little more seamless and safer. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you all.
Thank you.
This is Paul Metzler.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Paul. Thank you for coming in. We'll do a quick round of introductions, and then I've got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
And then we'll wrap up. Go ahead, Victoria.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Hi, Victoria.
I'm Victoria, Ward 5.
Hi, Michelle Weber, Ward 1.
Steve, Ward 2.
Hi, Beth Blackwell, Ward 4.
Corey Rodley, 3.
Sean Van Horten, Mayor.
Joe Piscineri up here. Ward 6, Thurston area.
Okay, Paul, what strengths or skills would you bring to the BPAC?
Oh, first of all, I'm an avid cyclist. Use the Mill Race Path and Mill Fork Path very regularly, and then use my bike quite a bit just for getting around town, errands and such. Even lived a period of time in my life and no car. So function by bicycle only.
How do you think the work of BPAC improves our community?
I consider that kind of a big picture question, but if I had to use one word, I'd say ambiance. You know, just the general feeling. It's pleasant, especially, you know, I live in the historic district. People are getting around by bicycle, they're walking. It's nice. It makes it a more favorable environment.
If you could make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
Especially as it relates to the BPAC committee, bicycle security. And that's a passion of mine, and it's what really motivated me to apply to this. Used to live in Eugene, had my bicycle stolen 3 times in 1 year, a very good bicycle too. It was so bad, our insurance carrier told us they would not renew if we didn't move. So we moved to Springfield. Yeah. Now, I still had the very nice bicycle lights stolen off the headphones when I was using the library a couple of months ago, but much better, you know, much better in that regard. Frankly, I live very close. I only live 5 blocks away. And I was thinking, oh, I should just ride my bike. And I thought, no, it'll be dark. It'll be left locked up to the bike rack. Nobody's around. So I drove.
Perfect. That was all we had for you.
Okay.
Nope, thank you so much. We'll get through the rest of our interviews and then staff will be in touch.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
Just right up your carriage.
Great. And our last is Garrett Mishaga. Mishaga, right? Mishaga.
Thank you for coming in. We got a couple of questions, but we're gonna do a round of introductions first. We'll start now with Victoria.
Hi, Victoria Doyle, representative for Ward 5.
Hey, Michelle Weber, Ward 1.
Steve, Ward 2.
Beth Blackwell, Ward 4.
Corey Rodley, she, her pronouns, and I'm in Ward 3.
Sean Van Gordon, Mayor. And then we're going up to the screen.
Hello, Joe Pishner, Ward 6.
Hello. All right. What strengths or skills would you bring to the BPAC?
Well, I've served on other committees in the past, and the last one was with the Main Street Safety Advisory Board. And also before that, when I was in Eugene in the Jefferson West Side neighborhood, I was on the committee for the MX West 11th extension out there. So I'm used to being in a committee type of situation, collaborative type of environment like that. I also feel like I'm a good communicator, organized, and again, get along with a lot of diverse different people and different backgrounds to come to some kind of consensus, you know, so that we could get a project done or move forward in one way or another. I'm also a trained landscape architect, so I'm familiar with built environments. And so I thought this would be a good fit, given my background in construction, landscape architecture, some of the needs, the different types of approaches that might be implemented in creating a better, more accessible bike and pedestrian access in different areas throughout the city.
And how do you think the work of BPAC improves our community?
Well, one thing I think is definitely safety in their community outreach, different programs, you know, and also the improvements, structural improvements that they've also done so far. So I think safety is the biggest one. Accessibility and improving and increasing accessibility throughout the city is important, whether you are a cyclist or just a pedestrian, a runner, you know, somebody who uses the paths and trailways throughout the city. I think the educational component is important as well, outreach to the community so that get people interested in alternative types of transportation or just making their neighborhood a little bit safer for them to be able to access some other areas and, you know, use them for walking, jogging, whatever around there. And then the outreach as far as, you know, events, you know, make it fun, engage the community and build, you know, more of a community besides just around your neighborhood as well.
If you could make one positive change in Springfield, what would it be?
Well, I had mentioned I was part of the Main Street Safety Project, on the committee there. I would like to see that revived in one way or another. I live at Modoc and 12th and use the Bob Kiefer Center quite a bit. So I will bike over there and I will use as many side streets as possible, eventually go down to 28th and then on to Main Street. It's unfortunate to see and hear the number of accidents, the number of incidents that occur on Main Street. Not only could it be made safer for the whole community, but also aesthetically improve, you know, the visibility and make that connection between Thurston and then downtown as well.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. We will discuss this afterwards and then the staff will let you know what our decision is.
Great.
All right.
Yeah, thank you all very much. This was my 5th interview of today. I'm the only interviewee. Yeah, I've been hiring on for ski instructors at Willamette Pass. So I had 4 other opportunities earlier to talk to people, so I appreciate your time. You know what it's like.
Your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Right. 5 spots, 5 people.
5 spots, 5 people. Elena also indicated that she might be interested in the housing board as well, I believe, on her application. So I mean.
Are you talking CDAC? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with all of them. I think it's a good diverse mix of folks.
Okay.
Very good.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm okay with Rachel and Paul, but I'm not wanting to see this committee become an activist committee. And so I would say no on Douglas, Elena, and Garrett. It's just my opinion. That's from reading everything and the interviews.
I'm sorry, and you said Garrick that you were saying no to?
I'm very familiar with the Eugene Jefferson West Side neighborhood group that he's a part of.
Can you be more clear on that?
Hmm?
Can you be more clear on that?
Yeah, I think that this is supposed to be like an advisory. Okay. And I think that we're looking at people that they have an agenda.
I got you.
And that's not something that I want to see with this group. I want our staff to be able to make those decisions and to be guided on those. And then looking at Elena's application, although she seems incredibly pleasant, she's only lived in Springfield for 2 months. And in Oregon for a very short time. And she also seems to have, and the other thing was like, when Rachel talked about her reasons for being on the committee and what she liked, it was that so people that wouldn't have to ride in cars, so they could choose not to ride in a car. When Douglas talked about it, it was because we want to stop people from riding cars because of the emissions and that. So it was more of a directive as opposed to, I'd like to do this because I'd like to see it. As something that as an option for people. So
Joe,
it was a red flag for me.
Yes, I agree with Victoria in the sense that where did our middle of the road, so to speak, that's a pun, middle of the road bicyclists, where their thoughts are, and you look at these applicants, and to me they're over the top. Most, several of them, I agree with the 3 that Victoria points out, but even those in my mind are a little bit over the top. I don't know how we can get this committee into being a objective committee in a sense that every single one we see or hear, and we look at the committee, it's fully loaded with almost to the point of activists, and that's to me is lopsided. There's several things that bike ped committee has done in the past that has surprised me, and some of their recommendations are, to me, are over the top. You know, I'm sorry, vehicles are not going away. Thurston is there's not a you can't live in Thurston without driving a vehicle. You can't even get into town without driving a vehicle. So you get these people that are trying to get rid of vehicles, and it's like it's not happening. So I would like to see the bike ped committee have a balance, and with three of these folks or two of these folks, there's not a balance. I think it's just over the top. So I agree with the three that Victoria pointed out, but not the others.
Joe?
So I appreciate the thoughts behind that, and I'm the liaison to this committee, and the focus of it would just by the sheer wording that we're using to describe the committee would kind of lean towards people that are in support of bicycles and walking and all of those modes of transportation. So if we're going to talk about trying to balance out this committee, I think we need to do outreach maybe in a different way that says we want different opinions, right? Not all just, we don't want just pro bicycle, pro walking, pro this. We want some conversation, right? From both sides, and some, those discussions to happen to bring that balance. And so I just throwing that out there.
Yeah, like folks with disabilities too. It'd be really neat to see somebody that was in that.
And remind me for a second, I believe it's been a long time since I've seen the committee for the roster for BPAC, right? Is there somebody who's in a wheelchair in the committee?
He's no longer there.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
before my time.
okay. Like I said, go ahead, Cory.
Yeah, and I think prior to Michelle serving on it, I was the representative for that. And I also was like, there are a few people on there that had disabilities that were talking about it. I think it's interesting that we're using the term over the top about, bicycles and pedestrians. And I'm thinking about some of the things that folks said, because it ties in so closely to the work that we're having to do for CFAC and some of the code changes that we're making around transportation. And we've had to make those adjustments prior to having a plan for the infrastructure. So I'm actually really interested in having people who are have experience in education and who are passionate about that, because that's the direction that we're gonna need to go in. So it doesn't feel over the top. It actually feels appropriate to have people that are passionate about that, helping to guide that work. So I just have a different opinion about it. I would rather have people who move by on foot and by bicycle and who are paying attention to safety than people who are not for that on that committee.
We're gonna go Steve first. He had his hand up, and then we'll come back to you, Beth.
Did I have my hand up first?
Yeah, you were Johnny on the spot.
I was just barely ahead of her. This is an advisory committee, one thing, not a policy making committee. And I like to hear new, different ideas, even if somebody doesn't agree with it. It stimulates thinking. So I agree with you on that, by the way, but I like to see fresh ideas in there.
Okay, Beth?
Well, I was actually kind of thinking the same thing when you want people that actually are using the systems that they're advising on a regular basis to actively to be able to give the best advice on the safety and the usage and kind of what's working and what's not working with those paths and those areas than people that maybe aren't utilizing those as much. And the outreach and the safety that are using those on a regular basis. I mean, I would think that people that are, using those regularly would kind of have maybe a better scope and a better view. Possibly. And people that aren't using them at all.
I absolutely agree with you on that, yeah.
Okay, so I've got.
And so it's not a policy-making committee, so that's true, so they can't, it's not like they can say. I mean, what is there, I'm sorry, I'm new, so I haven't been to one of their meetings, so I don't know what they can exactly
So
advise or not advise on.
I think the challenge was when we first got this committee, we've had a couple of times when it got, either through testimony or from advocacy or interaction with another intergovernmental agency, it sort of got presented as the view of the city without necessarily being the view of the council. And and so that's where probably I don't know, the wrinkle when people who've been around for, a while, it's like they've sort of experienced those places where you have a committee that's sort of interacting with ODOT, saying that this is what they, the city thinks or the city needs, opposed to coming back through the council for, to provide some sort of advice for. So that's not what's supposed to happen, but that has happened specifically with this committee in the past, but it's been a minute.
And I would be able to concede on two of those. I really have to hold firm with Derek, and that's because Main Street project is a big sticking point for me. And it was very clear that he was pro that project that we set aside and that we're looking at different ways of doing that. And so I really don't want to start reliving that again.
Okay, so
I'm willing to concede if that's the case, if we can at least agree on one.
So when I'm listening to the conversation, I've got Victoria wanting to, that has got questions about at least three of them, but okay with one. I've got Joe that's got questions about three of them. Are you guys still in the four of you in the same boat that you were when we started, where you're like, no, they all look good? Or you want to revise your answer?
If Victoria has strong feelings on the one applicant, I'm fine, supporting her feelings on that. But I do think we also need to remember that we have staff and we have a counselor liaison, and it's it's our job to help, not set the conversation, but to help put guardrails around it when it's going into, places that it shouldn't. So I think we have to trust that staff and liaisons will handle that too.
Okay.
If it helps.
Yeah, it does.
I think, go ahead.
I don't know if this will help at all, but the current BPAC, the Main Street Safety Plan, they've had on their work plan, writing some sort of letter of recommendation thing that they would like to see elements of that plan that be maintained. It's probably not helping with this conversation, but it's something that the BPAC has been actively trying to work on all year. But as you all know, that document is 1,500 plus pages, and finding the elements that they really want to nail down, they haven't got there yet, but that they're planning to continue that through their 2024 work plan as well.
Okay, so let's settle a couple of things here. That getting a letter back saying that they want to revisit the whole thing would probably not be would not be a good thing.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that, Michelle can help them, you can help them see through that. Like there are safety improvements that we can make, and getting a letter back that, holistically, now that it is 2023 and soon to be 2024, pointing to safety improvements might be okay. But I just don't want to get another letter back that says, hey, something this council's clearly said they're not interested in doing is something that we've got an advisory committee that wants to do that.
Yes, and they're absolutely aware of that.
Okay, good. Second thing is, I think it's important, there's two kind of threads that are important on this list. One of them, it is by nature with Bike and Ped, we were gonna bring, users and activists, who care deeply about this issue. I think that's normal. I think it's also valuable to point out that we have had problems with, the BPAC in the past, but that was probably 5 years ago. And so we can't necessarily, a whole different committee, and we've got to rely on Michelle, who's our liaison there, to kind of work their way through it. I do think, thank you, Michelle, for accepting your mission.
Yay.
I think we're good on 4 of them. I think, Garrick's a no. And if you still have a vacancy, right, then we'll go ahead and put that out for recruitment again. And just if you're keeping track at home, right, if Michelle, like I get to be the fourth vote on this one, so I think I've got the same concerns with Garrick. And so we'll just move forward with the, with the other four.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to leave you. Sorry to leave you still with an empty spot.
It's one less than I've had all year.
I know somebody who has interested to help them.
And there was a couple applications that I received late, they were just past the deadline, and so I can reach out to them again, so. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. Thank you all again. Thanks for. Yep, have a good night.
Thank you.
Any other committee want to just slip an interview in one last time? Before we adjourn, I want to
Going,
compliment you guys. You have introduced yourself successfully and said the right word. Now,
We slowly worked our way from describing where we were at to just going, I'm in more fight.
the first time was pinpoint precision. I'm going through the map in my head. I was like, well done, people. Well done.
The last time I tried to call myself a commissioner.
All right,
I heard Corey almost dropped the she, her. I was like, she's getting tired, don't it?
all right. I'm gonna churn us and we will reconvene on the CETA link.
Okay.
We'll see you in a minute, Joe.
All right.